As an Asian woman, I make 85 cents to the man's dollar.
As a white woman, I make 80 cents to the man's dollar.
As a black woman, I make 63 cents to a man's dollar.
As a Latino woman, I make 53 cents an hour compared to men.
As an LGBTQ woman, I make 16% less than the heterosexual male.
Where does the gender pay gap come from?
Oh, it comes from, well, straight out of Christianity. A woman's place is in the home. Women are second-class citizens traditionally. For instance, most colleges and universities didn't become co-ed until the 1970s. And there was a separation of genders there until that time. Princeton became co-ed, I believe around 1971, same time as UVA. So there's always that implicit misogyny in our society.
The gender pay gap has always existed. Most of the recent charts you'll see have anywhere from there isn't a gender pay gap to there's a massive gender pay gap, and there's no one set for an answer for how much is there, but we do know it's always existed. This graph here shows from 1980 until 2015 the trends of the gender wage gap of hourly wages between men and women. Now the disparity of this is throughout this timeline there's been multiple legislative acts to try to condemn the inequalities of the wages men and women are paid. In 1963, which is not even on this graph at this point, the President Kennedy signed into law the Equal Pay Act, which allegedly abolishes discrimination of wages based on sex. Now we can see from this trend that that didn't really happen. Then again, in 1981, which is the first year of this graph with the biggest gap, the Supreme Court also ruled that discrimination based on sex is illegal. Yet we don't see this trend actually coming into effect even today. Then again, in 2009, President Obama signed into law the Lilly-Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Now this allegedly made it illegal for businesses to discriminate wages based on sex, and it allowed workers to take legal action against their employers. Now, we see this trend didn't really happen. It got smaller, but even at the highest offices, the White House, there is still a gender pay gap. Now this graph was taken in the year 2012, the same year that Obama allegedly made it illegal for there to be a gender pay gap. Yet even in his office, there still was one. The disparities between what men and women are earned is not just based on gender. It's also based on race. In this chart, we can see the disparity of what women are paid amongst their race, with Asian women making the most and Latin American women making the least. Now, this disparity has, again, always been known. It goes back to the beginning of time, before, koi was even a thing. If you ask somebody, where does money come from? They usually say money comes from trees. And money comes from way back when, before it became with paper. It was even known as a spit, which is gross, but money has always existed, and there's always been a disparity between what men and women are paid.
As women have entered the workforce, because we need the labor, of course they haven't been paid as much, because a man is worth more, or so we've been taught.
Do you think that will ever go away?
It depends on the lawyers, the courts, and how active, how much noise women make about it. Things are becoming slightly more equal. One thing that's driving it is because of the costs and it's particularly apparent in the urban areas, to survive and buy all the things you ought to buy, you need dual income. So both partners in the couple are working. And now we're in a position where there's more women than men in our population, and that's going to cause things to change.
Tell me about it, Stud.
I can sell myself to any woman.
I'd like to see you prove that.
You would.
Make a woman fall in love with you.
You're on. So who's the lucky girl?
Her.
Her who?
Her in the gray dress.
Hi, Benjamin Barry.
Andy Anderson.
Oh, you are already falling in love with me. Picture yourself in the living room. Your pipe is simply set out for you. I know you think that it ain't too far. But I hear a call on the line.
Hi, can I buy you a drink?
Uh-huh.
Let's get out of here. Want to get out of here? What are you doing later?
I don't know.
I do. There's lots of beautiful women in this bar, but I can't take my eyes off of you.
It's time to go home.
Oh, it's 4